And I just want to shout you out. First and foremost, this is the first time we're meeting. I have been stalking him like I imagine many of y'all have for years. And I think it was like a bunch of years ago. I was like, okay, like I was that weirdo in his DMs. I was like, so which Amex should I? And but shouting you out, just being here in LA, you know, it's been a tough last stretch for us. And I just want to thank you for, you know, what you want to just remind everyone if people don't know where this money is going.
So tonight, every single book sold. So we are donating the full $30. So Zibby still gets their cut.
Yes.
But the Points Guy will cover the cost of every book, a donation to the Fire Department of LA fund. So all of that will be going to the community. And
thank you. Thank you.
I know the collective trauma that you all have had, especially in this neighborhood, so that does not go lost on us. And, you know, hopefully you all can use this book and take a much needed vacation, because no matter where you live in LA, I think everyone needs an escape from craziness.
We do. Okay, so perfect segue, because y'all, I read this book. It is chock full of goody, just everything you ever wanted, and then things you didn't even know existed. Okay. But I want to start. I know I watched you with Gail King, and she sort of asked you the same thing, but I love your sort of origin story of using points. So like, take me back to 12-year-old Brian. And was it Sheila with US Air? And he had just read John Grisham's The Firm, was obsessed with the Cayman Islands. Go.
I've always had a very active imagination. I think that's a nice way of putting it. I was a voracious reader as a child, and I was also an internet whiz. So I just always loved computers. I remember in 1990 getting my first.
You asked for the internet for Christmas.
Yeah, so I had an IBM. I taught myself MS-DOS, the operating system, which was so cool. I remember just being able to, like, you know, control a computer to do what you want. I got Prodigy Internet, which came in a burlap sack. You actually used to have to install the modem, plug in the phone line, and then pray for that hissing noise, and then curse your parents when they would pick up the phone and lose the connection. I don't know if any of you remember those days.
Yes.
So I was just always the computer whiz. And my dad, so we grew up outside of Philadelphia, the suburbs of Philly. He got a job in 1995 working for a company in Chatsworth, California. Oh, wow. So he was kind of a hospital pharmaceutical exec, always had an office, a secretary, and all of a sudden he's working from home. And he hates when I tell this story. He's not actually, they've been to 2 stops on the tour, but now that he's not here tonight, I can tell the real story. He did not know how to use a computer. Yeah. He hates when I tell this on national TV. He's like, you really make me out to look like an idiot. And I was like, well, you kind of were when it came to computers. So I was just like the computer administrator at age 12. It's kind of crazy to think I'm like on the internet as an 11-year-old, setting the like permissions for my siblings and parents on the computer.
Yep.
And then he got this job in Chatsworth, was commuting. And he said to me, you know, I have all these frequent flyer miles. If you can figure out how to use them, we'll go, you know. And we were the type of family, Outer Banks. We would drive to Maine.
Yeah. You weren't the
Florida.
Europe.
We never went to Europe. My parents were, you know, middle class, Irish Catholic. My mom's one of 10 kids.
Wow.
And funny enough, her mom never drove. She's very traditional. So her dad would have to drive them upstate New York and have to do 2 trips to get the second half of the kids. So, you know, my parents now are international travelers, but so he tasked me with planning a family trip at age 12. And I will just say this, it's insane now talking about it with my parents. Like, I was 12 planning our first family trip.
All 6 of you.
All 6 of us. And I had just read The Firm, and it takes place in the Cayman Islands, which to me sounded so fabulous. Blue water, offshore finance. You know, as a 12-year-old, that's like the thing that gets you excited. And I called up the airlines. I talked with Sheila at US Airways. I think I tried to deepen my voice to like,
this is Mr. Kelly.
I was my dad. I think she must have known, but she was very, very friendly. So tip number 1 in travel, and where I see so many people making a mistake, is berating agents or losing your patience. That will get you nowhere very quickly. And if you ever get an agent who isn't helpful, we do what's called hookah, hang up, call again.
Oh, wow.
You know, don't keep batting your head if someone can't help you. This goes for the cable company or whatever. But so I was able to book our family. We went to the Cayman Islands, but my dad, the tickets they wouldn't come in email. They used to send paper tickets in the mail. And I remember vividly, he opens up a package and he's like, what the hell is Owen Roberts International? Because he's like, I thought we were going to Phoenix, the Grand Canyon. And he looks at me, he's like, the Cayman Islands? And I swear, he goes, do they even have hospitals there? You know, that was like the first thing. He didn't know anything about it.
Wow.
And he didn't ground me. He was like, I think he did a little bit of research. You didn't even need passports back then to go to the Caribbean. This is 1996.
Yeah.
And I had also, being an internet whiz, had booked us I found a house. And so this new website, Verbo, Vacation Rentals by Owner, had just launched. So I was using Travelocity, which had just launched, to book his travel. He was paying me $10 a booking. I'm managing my dad's travel at age 12, and then book our family using his American miles. My mom and I flew through Miami. My dad and 3 siblings flew nonstop. And I booked us a house. It was like $1,300 for this 2-bedroom bungalow in Grand Cayman.
Wow.
And it was, so the night before we left, I had my first panic attack. I'm in my bunk bed with my fingers between my armpits. Like, am I going to get grounded? Like, what if we show up and the house doesn't exist?
Yeah.
And my mom and I flew through Miami. We were the last to arrive. And I talk about it in the book, but I'll never forget it. We go through the immigration, and I'm like, I'm either going to get in trouble. Like, does the house even exist? Because there's a lot of trust. And my dad just had this beaming smile, and he bear hugged me and was like, you knocked it out of the park, Brian. So that was our first points trip in 1996. And it really took the sting away. He traveled quite a bit, missed a lot of school events and whatever, but this trip we ended up taking every year on his points, brought our family together. And it was just the best. So I was the points kid in 1996. So it's kind of crazy looking back, all the way forward now, but
it makes total sense. It makes total sense. It's amazing how when we're kids, and I wonder how many people in the room, my dad would leave, I lived from Atlanta, and he worked for Deloitte or Touche Ross at the time. And he would fly out on a Sunday night or a Monday morning, and he'd come back on Friday. And that was just normal for me. And I remember we would all go to Hawaii. He'd have work, and we'd all be on points, on the plane, and maybe every so often access to the lounge. And when you're a kid, you remember that stuff, and I'm like, I want to be a million miler when I grow up too. I am. And so cut to, you are out of school, you're at Morgan Stanley in New York, and all of a sudden you start, you have this one job, but then I swear I'm going to get to the book, but I love context. So you start helping all these various people at Morgan Stanley, because how did you refer to it? You were points rich, but cash poor.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a seminal moment for me was in college. So I studied abroad in Spain, and I was student body president. So I started going I went to the University of Pittsburgh. By the way, Mike Kelly, my college roommate, no relation, but he is like a brother. Stand up, Mike.
Oh my God.
So he can vouch.
Wow.
Sometimes I wonder if this insanity when I retell, but he's nodding his head
Was
back.
he really this guy in college? Yeah.
And I talk about in the book our $300 fare when we went, my first time ever to Europe. Mike, my roommate, we were like, let's go to Ireland. And I got a $339 fare from Pittsburgh to Philly to Manchester to Dublin over spring break. We stayed in a hostel, never again. The smells that emanate from hostels, we stayed in a hostel in Paris, and we had some interesting stories. But I all of a sudden had elite status in 2004, and I start Googling, and that's when I found Flyer Talk. So Flyer Talk, for those who haven't been on, is like Reddit, but it was founded in the late 90s, and it's deep, crazy people in points. So that was my moment of wait, there's extraterrestrial life. There are people who have been doing what my dad and I have been doing, because we used to game the system. You used to be able to get American Airlines miles from cereal boxes, from Frosty cups at Wendy's. My dad and I had our whole family sending in, so we were playing this points game in the 90s.
Wow.
We just thought it was a weird thing we did. And then so in 2004, I'm in college. I had gotten US Airways Gold status randomly. So I think I was Googling around and found Flyer Talks. That's when I knew, wait a minute, I went hard into all these programs, and it took a lot of, these online communities were not open to outsiders. You really had to kind of learn the lingo. And so when I graduated, I was working in fashion, broke, really, really broke. And this is 2006 and 7. All my friends who were in finance were like, get a job working in finance. Even in HR, you'll still get the 4 weeks of vacation. You'll get the banker benefits.
Yep.
So I applied to every single finance job I, could get. And I got a job at Morgan Stanley doing their high-tech college recruitment. So my job was recruiting the computer scientists and engineers. And this is 2000. I started August of 2007. I mean, Wall Street's on a high. All my friends who were like 24 were getting $200,000 salaries, bottle service and meat packing. I mean, New York was a buzz.
Wow.
So I'm like, August of 07, I'm getting rich, even in HR. And like a month in September of 07, they were like, I remember being on the trading floor and they were like, unprecedented trade activity. And I'm like, yeah, more trades, more money. And the traders were like, no, this is like really bad. Yeah. And then of course we go into 2008. I worked across from Lehman Brothers. So I remember I was watching all the people come out with their boxes and I was doing the career fair. So I was at MIT and this is a moment, the Lehman Brothers career fair booth was still shipped with all the goodies and everything. And so slowly throughout the day, like scavengers, people started to crack it open. And then at one point, everyone's just stealing all the swag because the company didn't exist anymore.
Wow.
So I worked at Morgan Stanley through all that. I never lost my job, but I was on a team of 8 recruiters that went to just me at one point. So I was traveling like crazy, figured out I called Amex and I was like, can I get the points for my corporate card? And they're like, Mr. Kelly, you can, but it's $95 a year. And I'm like, well, I'm spending $100,000 a month. Hell yeah, sign me up. And you used to have to like print receipts, e-fax them in. I don't know if anyone remembers expense reports from the aughts. It was like, so all of my colleagues, everyone hated expenses but me, because every single expense report was like ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. So I started doing all the expenses, the Harvard career fair. Oh, I'll take one for the team and put that on my credit card. And I actually won like employee of the year, the comrade, for doing everyone's expenses.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, you idiots, like each page is like a business class ticket. Like I'll gladly stay. My time is worth nothing. So during that time, I still wasn't getting bonuses. So I was traveling first class and I had, at the same time that the economy was down, Marriott, Starwood, all those companies were giving crazy promotions. So I'm like traveling a lot, raking in crazy promotions. I'm the expense king at Morgan Stanley, but I'm still broke as hell. I was living paycheck to paycheck, never could really get ahead. But it was cheaper for me to use my miles, fly first class, because I had elite status in all the hotels. I would get amenities, free cocktails, free breakfast, which I would like eat at 10 p.m. to be 2 meals. And I would take the subway to JFK and fly British Airways first class. I flew with Madonna. So I have no money in my bank account, but I'm living this like jet set lifestyle. And eventually my ex at the time was like, you need to start a business. You realize like this is not normal, like in the best way.
Yeah.
And all my coworkers thought I had a sugar daddy. And
you're like, I'm the sugar daddy.
Yeah, no, Amex is the sugar daddy. So in 2010, I'm working. And so the Points Guy wasn't even a blog at first. It was a points travel agency. So it was a shell website. You could put in, I have all these miles. I want to take my family from LA to Naples. When I go on the Amex site, it's 2 million miles because that's how much the tickets would cost. Well, I would know through my knowledge of many, many years how to, I had all these different tools. So I was like a travel agent for points. And then my dad said to me, you need to figure out how to make money in your sleep. You can't just scale this $50 a ticket business. And then, so my friend said, you need to start blogging. It was June of 2010. He's like blogging. He was like an SEO expert. He was like, please blog because this will be so popular. And so June of 2010, I started blogging. And then by early 2011, it was really starting to take off. And
the New York Times comes calling, your site crashes. And you're like, peace out, Morgan Stanley.
Any entrepreneurs out there, always check your spam inbox, because I was with my friend Lori in Madrid and she was taking forever to get ready. And I'm having a glass of wine. I'm like, let me go through my Gmail spam. And literally New York Times interview requests.
You are kidding me.
And I remember I get chills thinking about it. Like, I was like, this is the break. And it was in my inbox for a month. So Seth Kugel from the New York Times, who still works for them, he was the Frugal Traveler columnist. And he wrote to me, he's like, everyone keeps telling me about this point stuff, but he's like,
he wasn't a believer.
He was not. He was the budget travel expert. And his whole take was, I hate loyalty programs, blackout dates, but the budget traveler should ignore them and just book the cheapest flight. And I ended up meeting with him. I was like, we can't do this over the phone. We need to meet in person. 3 hours later, I booked him. He was dating a girl in Brazil, and he booked a ticket that day.
You were like, I can get you to Sao Paulo. So
and he was like, yeah, right. And then we created, and this is why I love to this day, we created value from what he thought was worthless. He got $1,000 ticket to surprise his girlfriend the next week. So I knew I nailed that interview, but it wasn't until like a month later in media, you never know what they're going to write. I mean, I kind of knew I nailed it, but often things don't happen. And it was a month later, I'm blogging. I get into affiliate marketing where the credit card companies were like, you know our product better than we do. We'll pay you.
Yeah.
And the day that there was this British Airways 100,000 point offer, it comes out, and I'm excited because I'm going to, you know, make money because I knew how to sell this product to like the everyday people who just want to go to, and I've been very lucky in life in general, but the day this big offer comes out, the New York Times piece hits, crashes my site, and unbeknownst to me, the biggest gift it gave me was SEO. I don't even know, it's not like diamond juice, but like a New York Times link to a growing blog in 2011, even to this day, is gold. And it just shot me up in the search rankings. And it just has been a rocket ship ever since.
So now that we know the background, why did you want to write this book? You say traveling is a sport.
My favorite sport. Which is kind of funny that I'm 6'7", I suck at basketball, and my sport is like contorting myself on metal tubes. But I wrote this book so I could enjoy dinner parties again. I'm always the most popular guest at a dinner party, which is like a blessing and a curse because I'm just constantly, and 15 years after starting the Points Guy, and you know, millions of people read the site, but people are still confused. And there have been huge shifts, even from when I've started the Points Guy. You know, we're living in this loyalty heyday. And similar to in 2010, when I started the Points Guy in 2010, people said to me, this game's over, you're late to the game, blah, blah, blah. There's just negative people. And a lot of that was prevailing in the media. I was one of the few voices that was like, no, you idiots, you just don't know how to play the game, which shot me up. So the game is changing. The airlines are watering down, but the credit cards are making it more lucrative. There's like all these different levers. So I wrote the book today because there's still so many people who are leaving real money on the table. In the book, and it's been out for 1 week, I was flying to Miami on the tour, and these very wealthy people were traveling next to me, and we started chatting, and they were just they were like, we love to travel. We spend $75,000 a year on just travel for our family. And they're like, but you know, sometimes we just put it on a debit card because it's easier. And I was like, and I'm just like, the Chase Sapphire Reserve at 3x for this. And I explained what travel was, that it also includes your parking and tolls and Uber. And they were like, they looked at each other like, how have we not been doing this? And so I still get immense satisfaction, and I still make mistakes. Writing this book for me was really fun because I learned a lot. Like even being the Points Guy, there's stuff that I don't. My son ruined one of my chairs recently, if you see on social media, with the Sharpie all over this Jonathan Adler leather chair, $1,300. And I wrote, oh damn, this is now just like a piece of art in my house. And one of my friends was like, no, purchase protection on your, and I was like, oh, I used my Capital One Venture X, filed one claim, $1,300 off my bill.
Oh wow.
And even I forget stuff like that. And so, you know, this book is like an easy entryway because yes, it's a lot of this information exists in various forms all over the internet, but no one has time. And a lot of those, you know, that information is outdated. So I wanted to write a book for everyone. So you do not have an excuse to, you know, to not take part of this ecosystem.
Yeah. I've been traveling a long time, and I found myself like I'd never heard the word repositioning before, or you know, I'm an Amex Platinum girl, but I always go through Delta. And it was like 5 times. I didn't know I could book my flight through Amex. Anyway, I was like, explain the difference between, maybe you all know this, but between miles and points.
Yeah. So you know, miles are a specific currency with an airline. You know, points can be with the hotel company. The real difference is the points that you want to get these days are transferable points. These are the gold standard of points, and this is the credit card currencies. So if there's been one huge shift in points, even if you have loyalty to American Airlines, you know, or Delta, great airline, you cannot just go all in on loyalty these days. 15 years ago, just going all in on Delta, it kind of made sense. You know, even if you were gold, you might get upgraded, you were getting bonuses. But now the airlines in the US, because this is such a big business, and I talk about this in the book, like we are living in a loyalty-driven world. Many airlines make more money selling miles than they do tickets to airplanes. So this loyalty world and the perks and the credit card, you have to be playing this game. It is a full-blown currency. It's undeniable. These are not like coupon programs that are going away anytime soon. In fact, because of aircraft delays, Boeing, congested airports, the infrastructure. The airlines cannot grow their business without loyalty. Loyalty is how they drive. And unfortunately, fees. So they're starting to add even more fees for everyday consumers. So if you're not participating and understanding the programs, how to get fees waived, how to still get the things that used to be free, like seat selection and those better seats, you're losing out. You're just going to be paying more. So you need that. My point in the book is like, we're living in this amazing period of travel. I do believe the platinum age of travel, which is kind of a nod to platinum status, platinum credit cards. But, you know, if you look at the golden age of travel, everyone thinks that was amazing, but it wasn't for a lot of reasons. It was only for rich people. If you are not rich, you weren't traveling in the 60s. Travel was not accessible. It took forever. It was actually really dangerous. And, you know, yes, if you look at one picture on an Instagram post, like, oh, they used to carve turkey and economy, it's not like what it used to be. Well, those economy seats were more expensive than lie flat suites were today. I personally would rather be in my own lie flat suite, not sitting next to a smoker, like drunk person groping me, you know?
Yes.
So I make the case that, you know, travel is actually amazing today for those who know how to play the game, and you don't need to be rich. You just need to be fluent in the credit cards and points. And it's not that hard. It does take effort, but, you know.
So how do we play the game in this platinum age of travel?
The first thing, I mean, to play this game, especially in the US, is credit cards. You need to, first and foremost, understand how credit works. Do not be afraid of credit.
How many credit cards do you have?
I have 28, and my FICO is 805 as of yesterday, which, you know, a FICO above 750, frankly, it really doesn't matter beyond that. I'm getting the best rates for car, mortgage, et cetera. I can get approved for anything. And I have 28 cards. And what people don't realize is that the more available credit you have and the less you use, that's your debt to credit ratio. That's the number 2 score of your FICO. So if you only, and then the average age of your accounts and just paying your bills on time. So in the book, I go through this game. If you understand how credit works, getting a couple new credit cards a year, which each come with several $1,000s in bonuses and perks, you do this a couple times a year, you're using the card, so you're earning points on rent, you're getting 4x on your dining and groceries, which is what we all spend on. The goal in my 10 points commandments is just, you want to be earning more than 1 point per dollar spent. And with the Capital One Venture card, that's 2 on everything. So that's my baseline card. You know, barring rent, the Bilt card's a no-brainer. Anyone here who pays rent, if you're not paying it on Bilt, you are leaving thousands of dollars on the table. No annual fee card.
Wow.
3 points on rent. There is no fee to pay a landlord, even via direct deposit or a physical check.
Wow.
But anyway, so you just want to, you know, playing the credit card game is the most important, but there are many other ways. Uber, everyone here who uses Uber, you should take 2 seconds and connect your Marriott account. That's the number 1 way I earn my Marriott points. And I know most of my friends don't do that just because they didn't take the 1 second to click. And that could be 5 free nights, you know, just from your Ubers that you're doing anyway. Online shopping portals, you know, referring your friends who want credit cards. The referral bonuses can easily be 100,000 points a year. So like, you just start doing these small tweaks in your everyday, and this is what can help take trips every year. And then you layer on your, you know, that's the earning side. And then the redeeming side is becoming smarter about redeeming your miles, because a lot of people have all these points. But the beauty, and why I believe we're in the platinum age of travel, is that unlike when I started the Points Guy in 2010, where you had to kind of be an expert, you had to dive down Flyer Talk, you had to know someone. Today, there are tools like Point.me. Point.me is amazing. It automates and will search all of your Amex transfer partners. So if you want to go LA to Cabo next weekend and flights are crazy expensive, you may be able to get those same flights for 7,500 British Airways miles. And not only that, there might be a transfer bonus of 30%, which there often is to British Airways. So your $500 flight could be 5,000 points.
Which is why I'm hearing you. I'm learning from you, because you're airline agnostic at this point, right? It's all about, and plus you love the international airlines.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you've never flown international airlines, don't, because you'll
be ruined.
Encapsulate how bad we have it here. No, I mean, I love to fly the best flight. Like coming here from Miami, you know, American Airlines flights were super expensive. I drove 20 minutes further to Fort Lauderdale and flew JetBlue Mint in a lie flat bed with amazing food. And I'm like a lie flat queen. I'll take any route with a lie flat. Like, and even flying home tomorrow on United, choosing a 1 hour different departure, same exact price, but you get a 787 lie flat versus the old rusty 757.
Yep.
I'm actually taking that 757 because traveling with the crazy toddler, it's good to lock them in the window seat versus letting him have his own, aisle access at his seat. But that's what I teach too in the book. So like winning at travel, it's points, it's just understanding plane types, it's understanding that like frequent flyer miles, it's an insurance policy. I can't stress to you enough, when you're traveling abroad, you need to get home quickly. You have a death in the family, you need to fly someone out last minute. Being able and having the ability with clicks of a button and $0 spent to get amazing last minute tickets, it gives you just more confidence. When I have a whole chapter on when things go wrong on a flight. I don't wait and beg for handouts from an exhausted airline agent who really doesn't care to help me. They've got other things to worry about. You have to be ahead of the game, understand first of all, how am I getting home? What are the available flights? Is that airline a partner? And if they're not, you just burn frequent flyer miles. And if there's one tip I leave with you all today, one of the best changes of the pandemic is that airlines let you cancel your award tickets free of charge up until departure. So what I'm telling you is, if you really have to go to a gig, and you can book a second reservation on a different airline and have that as a backup policy. If your original flight were to get canceled or delayed, you've got a backup. If your original flight goes out on time, just cancel it. 2 clicks, you get your miles back, cash back. If your flight were to get canceled, you have a confirmed seat. So you'll get your refund on your original flight, especially now the DOT mandates the airline has to refund you. So it's like knowing the system and knowing how to just advocate for yourself. Because if you just put yourself at the will of an exhausted airline agent to fix all your problems, you're going to lose more often than not. But knowing the tools, the value of your points, protecting yourself, and more importantly, and when you have to ask the airline, know when you're asking for a favor. This is back to like being nice to airline agents. Most of the time, you're asking for a favor. Most people don't realize that. So they think, I'm never going to fly JetBlue again if you don't do this for me. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care if you have 400, Facebook followers. Because what's happening now, and I explain in the book, these agents are being audited. So back to the whole story, the airlines are squeezing revenue everywhere they can. So now more than ever, those agents, they can help you. They've got full power to do it, but they can't do it all the time. So they need to pick and choose who they help. So would you go out on a limb and get in possible trouble for someone who's a jerk to you?
No.
Of course not. But to the person you connect with and you're like, I want to get this person home and I'm willing to go to bat. And, if my manager asks why I waived that fee, I'm going to, leverage. So that's the mentality you have to have. And time again, I just watch people be lunatics, and it's because they don't know the system. And that's what I hope this book helps educate people, to just be more aware of how the system works instead of just complaining about it not working time and time again.
I love your whole "it never hurts to ask" thing. You guys, I was in Mexico City week before last for a couple of days, and I messaged Brian because I'm an Atlanta girl. I'm Delta loyal, like to a fault. And I finally got the elusive 360 status 1 or 2 years ago. And in the midst of the fires, I get this phone call on Sunday night from this woman who is an agent. And she literally goes, "This is your breakup call." The vibe in the city. I was just like, my breakup call. She was like, 360. And I was so I'm embarrassed to admit I was actually a little upset about it. So I messaged Brian and because I'm like, who am I to be, I'm not special. I'm obviously not spending all the money on the tickets that they require. And we were messaging back and forth, and I was talking to Peter, my man, and they both were like, it doesn't hurt to ask. And I was like, okay, I have a relationship just over email with the CEO. And I was like, you know what? I wrote this whole email. They gave it to me. Woo! They gave it to me. But literally then one person emailed.
Your approach was nice, right?
It was.
It wasn't, you owe me this.
No,
it's
not at all.
I support you. Can you support me?
Yeah, I'm like, I go out of my way. I love you guys. They're my original boyfriend. Anyway, no, I want it. What beyond all the tips and ways to win with travel, I love that you also toward the end of the book get into jet lag.
Yeah.
I mean, Taylor Swift may say jet lag is a choice, but is it a choice? I mean,
Scientifically, no, we all can't have even with the private jet, your body is still going to get jet lag. So that was a really fun chapter to write.
yeah. Talk to me about that.
Honestly, I was always I'm going to take a sleeping pill. I'll just drink a ton of coffee. I'm going to, truck through this.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older and like, especially going to Tokyo, which is like New York to Tokyo is the worst route in the world for jet lag. Like if you don't have a strategy for that and you think you're just going to, I'll shake it off, I'm invincible. Now that I'm a dad too, coming home, waking up at 2:31 a.m. wide awake, like that's not sustainable. I have a job, I have kids, like that is, then you get stressed because you're not sleeping, then you're whacked out for a week. So that's, writing that chapter. So, I mean, long story short, it's all about circadian science and your eyes. Your eyes have two purposes in life: to see and then to regulate and tell your circadian rhythm, whether to sleep, whether to digest. It affects everything your body does is related to your circadian rhythm. So using Time Shifter is critical. I think we have free Time Shifter subscriptions for everyone here today.
Thank you.
But it will give you personalized recommendations. And the goal is to just do prep work. A couple days before a trip, you start to adjust. I've been using the wrong melatonin my whole life. You need to use lower dose, but fast acting melatonin. So many of the gummies that we use, they taste delicious.
Oh my God, we love the gummies.
But they don't actually kick in until way past the time you need it. So it's all about cutting caffeine at certain times, starting to go to bed earlier. And even if you just do a couple days of that transition to help your body, it will dramatically reduce the time that jet lag hits you. So
I loved that whole chapter. I ate that up. And then also just flying with Dean.
Yeah.
Talk about that. How
Chaos.
has that?
I only show the good parts. No.
How has that been?
It's been amazing. And I'm not going to lie, even his flight here, he's in the worst age. I saw a funny Instagram reel. It's like rating the ages of children flying. Like babies are like 8 out of 10. They're asleep most of the time. Like, 8, 9, 10 months, you can feed them. But like 18 months to 2.5 years is like 0 out of 10. Because no matter what, they're just like, their brains are going through that cataclysmic explosions of happy, sad. It's nothing to do with parenting. And that's like, I want people to understand in the family travel chapter, let's all be a little bit more compassionate. I hate that, this baby was crying, the parents are negligent. Like just being nicer to people traveling. We were all kids. But a lot of it is too a mentality. It's like traveling. It's if you leave your house stressed and like, this is going to suck with my kids, then it probably will.
They'll feel the energy.
So your kids pick up off of you. If you're prepared, and then also if you minimize, I have a whole chapter on, reducing lines, waiting in lines, all these pressure points that you can do and reduce.
Yeah.
If you're going to wait in that long normal TSA line with 2 toddlers, like of course it's going to be hell. And then it's going to be a chain reaction. So going through with pre-check, which, Global Entry is now free for kids. So it's the best $120 a parent could spend. But most parents don't even know that you need Global Entry. They assume that you can take your kids through, which you can't. Even an infant, if you try to take your infant through Global Entry, you can lose it, which I know many people who have, which is something that a lot of people don't realize, which is why I wanted to put it in the book. So the point of like the traveling with the family, it's, traveling with the car seat, not with the car seat. European airlines don't even allow car seats. As a parent, you're like overwhelmed with information. You want to protect your child. You want to protect your wallet too. You're like, I feel better with my baby on me. Realistically, the European airlines don't allow car seats because they can asphyxiate. There are real children should not be in car seats for like 8 hours, which is what people will do on a long haul flight. So the European airlines say, well, you know what, we're just going to have them in a little belt loop on you. At the end of the day, I mean, traveling is extraordinarily safe. Yes, turbulence exists, but like I want parents to look at the big picture and not just be like, you're a bad parent for not using a car seat in every scenario, because it may not make sense. So I want to do at least, and even just using frequent flyer miles, some airlines charge crazy amounts. There are certain frequent flyer programs like Aeroplan and Virgin that are so affordable. And if there's another big theme you all should know, like the US programs are not great. The foreign frequent flyer programs are where it's at. So learn how to use Aeroplan, Virgin Atlantic. Each of them have their own sweet spots. And I talk about, understanding the sweet spots in each program to get the most value. So when you're traveling with kids, redeeming through Aeroplan, it's only 5,000 miles no matter what to travel with a kid. And some airlines, if they're sitting in your business class seat, they might charge you $1,000. So you really choosing an Aeroplan, it's $20, 20 Canadian dollars, no matter what, for a lap infant, even on a $20,000 first class ticket. Japan Airlines charged me 10% of the full fare. I had to pay $2,500 to let Dean
Because
sit
it was
on
a
my lap.
$25,000 ticket. Damn.
And you couldn't even argue. They were like, well, then don't upgrade. So anyway, each program is really nuanced, but I'm very proud of that chapter. And by the way, the book is 15 chapters that, yes, you can read from start to finish, but you also can go back.
Jump around.
If the family travel chapter is not of interest to you now, then you can come back later and read it. Or, I really think this book, for new parents, baby showers, like this book, I think is a really good resource. And Fear of Flying, let's,
The conversation with Whoopi about turbulence and like you covered literally everything.
And the therapeutics that you can do. I mean, it's amazing how many people have a fear of flying. I don't, but I've dated people who did. I'm no longer dating them for that reason. But there are real tools that people can use. I never knew there's a service called Dial a Pilot. For $65, you can speak to a certified pilot. And I know people with anxiety around flying that do that and are like, it's game changing. It really brings my level from like an 8 down to a 4, which is manageable. So, it's an anxiety disorder. So you may never cure yourself, but at least understanding different therapeutics. Whoopi was just hysterical to talk to. Her story is fascinating. I don't want to give it away in the book, but she saw a plane crash in San Diego. She was perfectly fine for years. And then one day had a crazy nightmare that like altered her state of being and could never get on a plane again. And when she was contractually obligated, the Sister Act became this global hit. And there was like a clause in the contract. She had to promote it in London if it became this ultra mega success. So she's like, it's a nun movie. It's like this. She's like, that's not going to happen. And they got
creative.
They got an anesthesiologist and a private jet involved. So she went from that, but now she flies commercially to Delta to Rome all the time. And so she shared her story. My friend Lays Lariah, who was in a plane crash, she is now one of the most frequent flyers I know, and she shares her tips. So I really do hope the book helps people,
feel better about having those tools, knowing how they can. Yeah, I'm good on big planes, not on teeny tiny ones. I know you guys have so many questions, so I'm going to stop asking them and you all just start shooting your hands up in the air. And who wants to know about crazy Emirates? Yeah, yes.
So everyone talks about the credit or the gift cards, like use your points for gift cards. But I'm so worried that the gift cards will be fraudulent,
Yeah.
Talk about that.
So using credit card points for gift cards is like an okay value. You're going to get less than 1 cent per point. And in the book, you ideally, especially with Amex points, we value them at the points guy at like 2 cents a piece. Because when you transfer, I'll just use this example, like if you want to get a $500 gift card, it's going to cost you 75,000 American Express points. That same amount of points can get you LA to Paris business class, which is a $5,000 ticket, let's call it. So would you rather have a $500 Saks card or a business class ticket or even to Asia? You can, so some people want the gift card. And that's when I talk about, I've used points for gift cards during my cash poor, points rich days. And I tell people, at least use your points. You may not want to go to the Maldives in first class. You may be tight on money, but points are still currency. And if you want to get gift cards in Amazon or cash back, then do not get a premium travel airline card that then you eviscerate the value of that currency to get another. Instead, get a credit card that's 2% cash back, which will be giving you way more back in the form of cash, which is a better asset to have than a gift card that could get lost or stolen. And to your point on fraud, there is a lot of fraud with gift cards. I was just talking to someone on this book tour who used points for a $3,000 wedding gift card for their daughter-in-law who had a similar but different name than theirs. And the credit card company locked them out. And it's been months of trying to figure out. It's like locked in fraud because in general, I think that's just a sign not to use your valuable points for gift cards. Instead, just get a card that earns cash back. Because it's a better return on your spend.
Who else? Yeah.
For someone just starting out on this journey, what's your number one favorite credit card you recommend?
Well, do you pay rent?
Yes.
So the Bilt credit card, full disclosure, I actually helped found the Bilt card, which when the founder came to me, I was like, this is insane. But if we can figure out how to give people points for rent, this is going to be huge.
Yeah.
And it was March of 2020. I had always been approached by companies to invest and advise. And I'm like, I'm too busy. But here it is, March of 2020. I'm stuck at home, and I saw it as a sign to, this crazy entrepreneur. And I was like, your idea is insane, but like the value of my time right now is pretty low because I'm home anyway. So we whiteboarded it. I introduced them to the airlines.
Wow.
We created it. So Built is truly, not only is it no annual fee, you get 1 point per dollar on rent. It's double on travel, triple on dining. And then Built also has fitness programs, dining programs. So for a no annual fee card, mind you, these Built points transfer. They're the most valuable points per the points guy. They're the similar value as Chase. So these points can be transferred to Hyatt, United, Emirates, Virgin, and plus on the first of every month, they usually have transfer bonuses to a different partner. So it is a gangbuster way to, earn in the categories you spend a lot in. I would say also, intro cards, Chase Sapphire Preferred, Capital One Venture, those are transferable points cards that have, travel and dining, or, the Venture card is 2x on everything. So if you had a Venture card and a Built card, 2x on everything, and then use the Built for rent, dining, and travel, I think that's a really great, starting point.
Yeah. The woman and then the gentleman. Yeah.
Oh, this is my husband.
Oh, great.
So my husband here, he has about 20 credit cards, 19, 20. And he keeps track of all his credit cards in a Google sheet and all the benefits that go along with the credit cards. Is that the best way to keep track of everything?
Yeah, so I talk in the book, like there are apps out there that can track credit card points. The Points Guy has an app. I will say this, there are security concerns and there's lots of loyalty fraud these days. So I would just urge everyone, when you're giving all of your banking information to a partner, I'd be careful. I do like Award Wallet. I kind of track that as like the best overall points tracker. They will help identify perks and points. Because it is dizzying, especially when it comes to the perks that come with each of your cards. Like I have a whole chapter on perks, and I think that's an area where we all forget the real value. We forget to use our Saks credit, our airline credits. We're busy people. So, but I think, if you're really going to be diligent in this game, like having that spreadsheet and just keeping track, and, take a morning on a Saturday, drink a huge venti iced coffee, like get everything in and just research each of your cards. There's Points Guy, there's other posts. So if you have, the Capital One Venture X card, comes with travel credits every year, but it resets on your card member anniversary, not January 1. Amex cards often reset January 1. So it's like, it's annoying, but I would recommend still kind of having a spreadsheet where you can double check that you're constantly getting all of that value off of the table. Because one of the trends we're seeing, like Amex has been doing, is adding more rebates and monthly credits and quarterly credits. I personally hate that. It's sort of designed, in my opinion, to have people leave money on the table and allow them to still advertise. So the onus is on us more than ever. There are apps to make it easier. I talk about it in the book, but like at the end of the day, just taking ownership of it, knowing the perks, making sure you also get them credited like you thought you would. Also with Amex, the Saks credit, like never wait until the last day of the quarter, because often if Saks doesn't ship your item till after the quarter, you're not going to get it rebated. So always do it in advance. And one other reminder, when you get credit card sign-up bonuses, you have to hit like 3,000 within 3 months, but always go 10% over that, because if you ever return something unknowingly, they'll take all those points back. So you want to overspend. And also the annual fee does not count towards that. And the clock starts ticking not when you activate the card, but when you're approved, which is a mistake. I think a lot of people assume it's not going to start until I get using it, right?
Wow.
Incorrect.
Yes.
I have a question from a situation that happened to me recently. And when it happened, I was like, what would the Points Guy have done?
This is a TV show I want to do where I'm like a cross between Judge Judy and Susie Orman. Approved, declined. Travel court.
So I was flying back from Tokyo and we bought Comfort Plus tickets. And they, like right before we were boarding, they bumped us to economy because they said that our seats didn't recline. So they were like, we're going to put you in the first seat in economy. And I was like, okay. Like, they were like, it's better. It's fine. There's lots of space back there. I'm like, okay, fine. So I was like, is there anything you could do? And they did end up giving us like, I think $100 like voucher to Delta. And then I called later and they also gave me money back. But I was like thinking like, is there anything I should have done like at the airport or like what? I guess like just wondering what you would have done in that situation.
Yeah, so it's important. So it also depends where you're flying from. So you're flying from Asia. Technically, with the airline, was it Delta?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a different. Their premium economy product, premium select is a different product. So you are owed. I mean, the law states you're owed the difference in fare.
Yeah.
That they at least owe you that. And then Delta is actually the best of the major airlines in giving beyond that. But yeah, this happens quite a bit. And I talk about it in the book. This is why people need to, you have to maniacally check your reservations. They'll switch plane types. They'll bump you into middle seats.
Yeah.
Like, I think, refunding the difference is like what they have to do.
Yeah.
I think asking for, mileage, as for the inconvenience, or even, I don't know I'm sure you wanted to get home, but sometimes they can, well, this is also where if I were you, I would have looked to see if there were any open business class seats.
Yeah.
And you could have made the case because you'd be like, in the book, I tell you, if you know that there's like 4 business class seats open, you could say, well, respectfully, like, I know there's business class, I'm a customer, and you make the case for it. And this is when you tell an agent and you start speaking like affirmatively, like once the agent realizes like, okay, you know what you're talking about. I don't want them complaining, causing a shit show. Like if there was an open business class seat, you could make well, I think you guys need to bump me up versus down. I booked this because I have lower back pain. This is going to cause a really big issue. I'm going to be,
Is she calling the agent or is she
I
at the
think
gate?
in person at the gate. So the gate agents, especially when they're boarding the flight, a lot of times they kind of give people a shit sandwich and most people take it.
Yeah.
But when you're like, no, unfortunately, respectfully, that's not going to work. I know you have 2 seats in business class that are open right now. Half the time, the airline employees are probably waiting to upgrade their fellow employees. So if you're just going to take the downgrade, they're going to save those, prime seats for, upgrades or whatever. But if you stand up for yourself and I'm like, I bought Delta, I picked this flight, this is going to cause huge issues, like I need to have this, that's what I paid for.
Never hurts to ask.
It never hurts to ask, but like knowing what's in the front.
Yeah.
And then really, if you ever feel wronged by an airline, if you feel like they're not listening, file a DOT complaint. That mandates that the airline respond. So a lot of time the airlines won't give you what you're owed. And in the book, I talk about if you're leaving from Europe, EU 261 compensation, where it mandates by law, if the flight's delayed or canceled, the airlines are so naughty because Americans don't realize they are owed euros. Like if your flight's canceled, you're owed potentially 800 euros.
Oh, wow.
And the US airlines won't even tell you that. By the way, when you're traveling to Europe, that compensation kicks in if you're flying a European carrier to Europe. So when you have the choice of Delta or Air France, and it's the same price, I always choose the European carriers to go to Europe because in US soil, if you're leaving and that flight's delayed, something annoying happens, you have those EU 261 like cash compensation that you are legally owed.
Oh, wow.
If you're flying Delta to Europe, they don't owe you it. Delta leaving Europe has to pay you. So you get more protection when flying those carriers.
In the blue shirt, yeah.
So you mentioned this earlier, Brian, about point.me. My wife and I are going to plan a trip to Europe this summer, and we have our Chase pot of points in our Amex. And obviously there's crossover transfer partners such as KLM Air France. You have a pool of points and you're trying to figure out how can I best get the family there with 2 different programs that I can transfer into the same airline partner like Air France. Is that a point.me?
Yeah, so there's point.me is like, it dives deep across tons of airlines for one date. So if you're flexible, and this is where I really stress to be, the tool that you really need to learn is seats.aero. Seats.aero is my favorite tool because I'm usually pretty flexible. This is where you can reverse, you go deep on one airline. So let's talk Emirates. Emirates A380 first class is the bucket list. It's unlimited Dom, it's shower in the sky. What that seats.aero will let you do is search Emirates from LA. It's really tough. You guys in LA have it tough going to Europe and stuff. That award availability is really tight. Or Virgin Atlantic, for example. So I would just first see where the availability is. So seats.aero will let you search Virgin Atlantic because your main goal is let's get you to Europe, right? Then we can plan the others. So look for the major gateways. Virgin Atlantic. Seats.aero will let you pull a year's worth of availability if you're part of their pro version. So then filter by business class, nonstop, LA, Heathrow. So there might be 30 dates this summer where you can get 2 or 3 tickets. So start there or try Air France, And so basically seats.aero will help you look at all the different dates, and you can kind of, let's come home on Air France, let's come home on KLM. So using one-way tickets will allow you to mix and match. But first, find which airlines even have the 3 or 4 seats that you need, and let your availability choose your dates, and then plan your trip around that.
Wow. That's really good. Yes, in the back.
So sign-up bonuses can be super incentivizing, but how do you feel about canceling credit cards before that annual fee hits to kind of avoid them?
Yeah, canceling credit cards is an art as well, because in general, you want to keep, once again, your available credit open. Opening and closing crazily too can also get you banned from credit card companies. So what I generally don't recommend canceling a credit card outright. So always you're going to want to ask for the retention department. Sometimes they'll give you points or waive the annual fee or give you some cool promotion that makes it worth it to keep it open another year. And then even if that doesn't happen, I would downgrade the card to a no annual fee version. Almost every credit card company, airline credit card, they have these no annual fee versions. So you can downgrade, keep that line of credit open, which helps you with your ratio, keep the relationship open, keep the average age open, and you're not paying an annual fee. So in worst case scenario, I downgrade versus canceling.
Question. Curious, you mentioned you have how many cards again?
28.
What's in your wallet right now?
It's my George Costanza wallet. I don't know. I don't travel with all of them. I have an Old City Prestige card, which you can't get. It's 5x on dining.
Wow.
So, and I dine out quite a bit. So I use that for dining a lot. My Bilt card for 3x in New York City, they have Bilt dining, and actually in LA, you can get 6x or more points. So the Bilt points I find very, very, very valuable. And Bilt will actually let you pay your, I'm able to, on my mortgage, my monthly fees on a Bilt card. You're not allowed to pay mortgage yet. They're working on that. But also I know people with Bilt cards, you know, if you live with a partner who owns the house, you can pay them rent on your Bilt card. If you catch my drift. And so that card is really valuable. I love that card. Where else was I? You know, the Amex Gold 4x. So my nanny has that for Instacart, for groceries 4x, and also with grocery stores. Remember 4x points at most grocery stores. You can buy gift cards for Uber, Starbucks, etc. So like you can actually, and this is why I talk about it in the book too. Don't give cash for a wedding gift or college graduation gift. By using 4x, you know, the $500 gift card to an airline or whatever. You'll earn tons of points for doing that. Also, if you're going to do a home renovation, you can buy Home Depot, Lowe's, etc. gift cards for 4x points on your Amex at a grocery store versus getting only 1 point by shopping at Home Depot.
Wow. Wow.
I think we have time for one more question.
One more. You pick it, Brian. Guy in
Well,
the middle back.
Ben in the very back. By the way, introduce yourself. Everyone should follow Ben. He's a fabulous blogger in the space.
Ben, that's a big deal. Brian, I have a question for you. It's about status. We see a lot of airlines now selling their first class tickets last minute now. Is it still worthwhile to earn status in 2025? And if it is, what level should we go for?
Yeah, I think, you know, elite status in 2010, when I started the Points Guy, 80% of first class seats were being given for free to elite members. So I remember being Delta Silver out of New York and I was getting upgraded half the time. That doesn't happen anymore. So, you know, at the top tier, Delta has the upgrade certificates on international flights. Most of the majors do. You know, they're selling so much more, like you said. So even those upgrade instruments, the global upgrades, you're generally having to like bite your fingernails, wait to the last minute, jump through hoops, cry, kick, scream, double check the agents doing it correctly. And to me, that whole process defeats the purpose. But for some people, so I think at the highest levels, it's worth it. But I really encourage people, especially since the airlines like Delta will make you spend $250,000 on their credit card, that the opportunity cost by not getting 2, 3, 4, 5x on all these rich credit cards, by giving it and earning one far inferior Delta mile when you could be earning 4 to 5 Amex and Chase points. Think about all that money you're leaving. So at least do the equation. I'm going to give $100,000 on an airline card to get status, and I'm going to forego 100,000 Chase points, which is like $2,000. Like, am I at least getting 2,000 in real value from that airline status? So like, you know, lounge access or a free check bag, are you getting 2,000 of that? Answer might be yes. But you know, I am a free agent. It's so nice to be able to fly JetBlue and not feel guilty. I'm not like accruing my United miles, but I'm not, you know, going to connect or whatever. I'm always choosing the best flight, maximizing my points, and then just use your points. You can get enough of them. Just use your points, book the flights you want, and have no stress. And when you start booking the best airlines on the flight home, you're not dreading the return home from your trip. You're looking forward to it because you're taking your mom, like Valerie does on Q Suites. But I'll end on this, a warning. The minute you turn left on a plane,
there's no turbulence when you turn left.
You can't unsee. And once you get a taste of this world, if you're new at this, so if you're happy flying premium economy, stay there. At least until you can. Thank you all so much. Oh yeah.
We got to give away your.
Oh yeah, and our giveaway.
Everyone can hold their book. We're gonna take a group photo, and then we're gonna do a giveaway. So you don't want to leave.
Yeah.
Wait, let me hold your book. I love the cover, by the way.
Oh, thank you.